Before me, I have two sets of facts, figures, and anecdotes about Jeju and COVID. One is positive, the other is more cautious. Alexis, I'm going to leave it to you to choose which one we'll start off with first.
Well, let me ask you a question. Which list is longer?
The caution.
All right. Okay, so you know what? I always like ending things on a good note. Uh-huh. So let's go ahead and do the cautionary first.
Sure. Well, before we get to that, I'd like to say thank you so much for all the support we had for the first episode. We got a lot of love, a lot of warm reception, and we really appreciate it.
My goodness, it's been great. So many messages sent to us. We really appreciate everyone taking the time to listen to us. Really, this started out, we just wanted to, do something, and there's so much to talk about on Jeju. But now that we're doing it, it's getting kind of serious for Darryl and I, and we're really like our friends and our families and even strangers supporting us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And, we are, me, you, and Jeju. I'm Darryl.
I'm Alexis.
Yeah. And how have you been? It's been like about 2 weeks since
it has been. It's been hectic, hey? Always.
Yeah, a little.
Always, yeah. I'm enjoying it. The weather is getting better here on Jeju. For those of you not living here, we're starting to see some fake spring weather. For those of you that used to live here, you know what I'm talking about. It's not really spring yet.
It feels like it, though.
It does. But we all know that this is the fake spring. It's not going to last. Something is going to happen. It's going to be cold again.
Yeah. No, but I'm very much looking forward to this.
Yeah. My goodness. Between COVID, which is what we're about to go into, this is part of the negative on my list. Between COVID and the coldest winter that Jeju has seen in a long time, it's been one heck of a winter.
So how was Solo? We haven't talked since then.
Yeah, so it was nice and relaxing. I was able to get away and found a hotel with a bathtub and a view. Hung out with a couple friends, keeping the four people limit.
Four and a caddy.
Yeah, four and a caddy. Had a little wine, played little board games, little card games. It was lovely. What about you? You had a family?
Yeah, a small family gathering, right?
Yeah.
But that kind of leads into what I was going to start talking about. Was my father-in-law was kind of like upset because Solal is one of it's his favorite holiday, right?
Oh.
And it's the time of year that he gets to see his entire family.
Absolutely.
They all come over because he's also the eldest in his family. He is the limb.
So everyone comes to his house.
Everyone
typically.
comes to his house.
Okay.
And this year it was limited to just us, right? And so he's getting up there, and so he was kind of disappointed that that he didn't get to see everybody. But what made it worse was the fact that so many people from Seoul were coming here.
My goodness. I saw, the Jeju government has been sending us text messages and, alerts. And there's a whole website dedicated to where you can go get numbers and things. And they alerted the Jeju residents of how many were scheduled to come or anticipated.
What number did you have?
So if I remember correctly, it was like 1,100, excuse me, my mind isn't working. 145.
145?
Yeah.
Well, the JTA, Jeju Tourism Association, came out and said that 150,000 people came to the island.
So even more, 5,000 more than I thought.
Previous.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, they had anticipated 140,000 people to come here prior to that. But it was overshot by about 10,000 people. But that's not what really bothers me. Oh, just so everybody knows, if you hear noise, it's my daughter. We don't have a babysitter, so
Aurora is joining us on the podcast today.
She's munching away.
She's munching on a chip and enjoying herself.
So 150,000 people came over that time. On February 11th, it saw 36,000 people alone, which is quite huge. But
wow.
Those aren't the numbers that kind of concern me because, if we look at, March from 2020, we had 480,000 people, which is a huge drop from the year before. And we've been slowly escalating since then, but the number that really I thought was interesting and bad? You're going to say interesting and bad? No, this is bad because this means money for local tourism, right?
This is true.
You familiar with the Jeju Dream Tower?
Yes, of course.
Well, what?
Hit me with some facts. I know I'm going to like this. Darryl always pulls out these random factoids, as I like to call them, and I'm constantly amazed at how he figures out this information.
Oh, yeah, sweetie. We'll get it for you. So the Dream Tower which is the new huge hotel.
Massive.
Yeah, down in Shinjeju. Have you been there?
Yes. Oh my gosh. That could be a whole podcast. No kidding, Daryl. Listen, I am not
Nice
as
bathtubs?
Oh, actually, I heard they are really, but it's not the bathtubs, Daryl. It's the view. Unbelievable. And all of my friends know this. And anyone that's been in a car with me that's come from the side of the island and come up over into Shinjeju, and you just see this monstrosity. The whole, how long, Daryl, has it been being built for? Could you pull that out of your head?
No, but it was being built before I came back here.
Yes.
Right? And that was 3 years ago.
Right.
A long time ago.
So you got to understand, people, this has been, everybody's asking, what's the Dream Tower? It's been a hole in the ground for forever. And so just me coming up over the hill, every time you make this one turn on the major road in Jeju, and it just comes at you. And every time I'm like, damn it. And all my friends who've been in the car know that I have this reaction. However, having been inside it, oh my gosh, it's lovely.
That's so interesting. You know what that just reminded me of? You know Cal Hotel?
Yeah, of course.
That used to be the biggest hotel, biggest building in Jeju, right?
That's right.
And people used to, I think there's a famous poem about that building because it was the biggest. And now it's this old building down in by close to City Hall, right?
Right.
Oh,
so there's a poem. Hey, if any of our listeners know anything about that, we welcome messages and notes. We'd love to hear that. But yeah, so
the cautious news about the Dream Tower.
Here we go.
Is that they advertised a staycation on the shopping channel, local shopping channel, CJO Shopping, on February 14th. They sold out 9,800 rooms in an hour.
I'm sorry. How many rooms? What?
9,800 rooms.
Number one.
That's not how many rooms they have.
Okay,
they're selling
this is blowing my mind.
Staycation packages.
This is blowing my mind.
Right?
Number one, yes, I knew it was it's 38 floors, people. So yes, I knew it was a big hotel. I had no idea, number one, that it had 9,000 rooms plus more that you're telling me.
I'm not saying it had that many rooms. What I'm saying is that they
sold out. That's what
9,800 packages for their rooms in an hour.
Oh my goodness. Okay. You really were blowing my mind. Okay.
There were 300,000 won a night, and it equals about $3 billion in revenue just for that company in 1 hour.
Good for them. However, when you say, do you know that if it was just for solo? Or was this this is overall
on the 14th.
the year?
This was a package that they were selling online. They're going hey everybody, pandemic, let's get you traveling again. Let's
travel to Jeju.
And that was only for the one night package. They had other packages that also sold that time. So that, to me, why I mentioned that as under the cautious thing is because it indicates that people are going to be coming to the island more so than before, right?
Okay.
We have this month, it's been 600,000 people so far, and it's not even over yet, which is quite a bit.
Right.
Based on previous months, last month it was 625,000. We've already exceeded
that.
Yeah,
right.
Just about that. Which
yeah.
is still fewer than usual. We usually get more, about a million and a half a month, 15 million a year. Pre-COVID.
Yeah, right.
But it was escalating up until 2019. So the reason why this is cautious is because we're still in a pandemic.
We sure are. We sure are. It is. It's a double-edged sword, a catch-22, if you will. We as a foreigner living here, but at this point, this is my life. I am as local as I can be, having lived on the island for 9 years now. On one hand, you want the businesses around you.
Yeah.
Last episode we talked about how many businesses are closing and how I'm worried about my friends' businesses. So on one hand, we want them to stay open. On the other hand, when things are good on Jeju, we residents get to live a fairly normal life. When more and more mainlanders and people come down, we don't get to live the normal life that we've gone used to here.
Yeah, during the when Sola was here, there was so many. The traffic was astronomical.
It really was, and I was a little unexpected. I'm glad I kind of just holed myself up in a room, and that was my stay.
So that's why I called this cautious. It's
not
pessimistic. Okay, it's not negative. It's not because. I get there are issues of a Weguk and a foreigner here criticizing all the development on the island, which is the irony in that, which is why I'm here. So that is the cautious. Now,
Okay.
on to the positive.
Well, that wasn't too bad of a list, Daryl.
I mean, I can.
You could go on.
I
Do
got
we want to
more
go
numbers.
on?
No, I think it's just numbers.
Is there anything that's going to surprise me? Because like I've always told you, you have a lot of factoids up in that brain of yours, and I'm always fascinated with these numbers you pull out.
Well,
so is there anything that would be interesting?
Well, just numbers. But
Okay.
I think I hope it's interesting to people to like get a data picture of it. It's not very intensive, but I like it. I like dealing with numbers.
I think numbers just put things into perspective, and it's nice to hear, and just see where,
So the positive is the fact that so many people are coming to the island and the vaccine's coming.
Dun, dun, dun. I feel like that deserves its own noise, its own intro. Maybe you can add that into the podcast later, Daryl.
Sure, yeah, post and post.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it was,
vaccine.
Well, the interesting thing was that the military was like last week running test like trips back and forth to the island to make sure that if there's like an emergency, they could get vaccines to the island.
See,
right?
in this audience, this is what I mean by Daryl has these factoids in his head that I had no idea. So that's what they were doing last week.
Yeah.
Just making sure they can fly things in quickly.
Yeah, on an emergency, right?
That's amazing. Okay. God, I feel so taken care of.
And what are you going to do next Christmas? Because the plan
Oh, no. Daryl, what are you about to say?
The plan is to have, all of Korea, but also
Right.
Jeju,
Right.
70% vaccinated, including foreigners, by November.
I know a lot of foreigners were worried if we were going to be included in the rollout, and the government has done such a great job of announcing and making sure that they were very upfront about how it was going to be and that the foreigners were included. So you kind of felt all of Korea just do this collective exhale,
this relief, yeah.
there's just like relief that we're not being forgot about, and as basically residents, longtime residents here, so it's good news.
It's really good news. And I also heard that I believe that they're going to be vaccinated, like anybody who's on the island, free of charge. So it's promising. It shows us like there's a way out of this, right? Even though we've been particularly lucky compared to most other people throughout the world. My
Absolutely,
family at home. I couldn't count my blessings.
Agreed. I'm right there with you. We mentioned this last time. I'm grateful to be here.
Oh, I don't remember that. It's so long ago. My memory's so bad. Yeah.
No, I think it's just always a good time to take a second and just be grateful for where you are and happy, yeah.
So do you have anything to update us about the...
Well, so if we're going to be talking about like the positives and stuff, so Jeju has decided to go through with the Fire Festival this year. Did you get that? Did you see that?
Hooray!
Yay! Daryl's like a grumpy old man over here.
Yeah,
it is
traffic, congestion.
Just tell the people how you feel about the Fire Festival, please. Let's get it out of the way.
No, it's truly a fantastic, lovely festival. It's just a pain to get to and a pain to leave.
He's like a grumpy old man. People, he's like, get off my lawn.
I have no place to park.
So for the rest of us, I have lived all over, really all over, and I've been to festivals all over as well. This is something so special, so unique. So last year was canceled. I think we might have mentioned that. Last year was canceled, and this year it's not. However, there is a little bit of a thing,
caveat?
A little caveat, a little catch. You have to register. You have to be in a car. Only 4 people to a car.
In the car to register?
Yeah, let me rephrase that. So they're only allowing 400 cars total. In each car, you can have 4 people. And not only that, which makes it hard, you have to get tickets in advance because they're not going to have people drive out there and turn them away. So there needs to be spots saved for these people. So
it's like a drive-in.
Yeah, exactly like a drive-in for a mountain on fire.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a heck of a show. But
can you tell them a little about what the Fire Festival is?
Sure. So the Fire Festival is something that Jeju has done for years and years, and I've been involved with in the past years. And the short end of it is basically welcoming spring. You're gonna burn things down for 2 reasons. One is to get ready for the new crops, but also in Jeju and Korea tradition, it's letting go of the past year, be it good memories, be it bad memories. It's saying goodbye to them.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really cool. They have a lot of traditions, such as example, you could write down a wish.
Right.
And then throw it into the fire, write down some memories, throw it into the fire. So it's a whole package of, welcoming spring and that sort of thing. So basically some of you have seen our post on our Instagram. Autumns are a big thing here in Jeju. So this is one specific autumn, and they just light it on fire.
Yeah.
Literally light it on fire. It's a massive
fire, like mounted on fire.
It is.
Sabiol, I believe it is.
Yeah,
right?
yep, Sabiol.
It's right by the highway. Like you pass it when you go back and forth on the Kaniro from Sagipo to Jeju.
I'll post a picture on our Instagram and our Facebook for our viewers. It's interesting this year. Usually they just say, Jeju in Hangul, Jeju and 2021. This year, instead of that, I was driving by. I was like, I have to get a picture of this. They have do you remember what it said? Goodbye, COVID. Did you not see my picture? No. Okay.
Goodbye. So it's like a big, it's a big send off to get out of here.
It's
You're done with
get
your
out,
COVID.
get out, COVID. So that is carved into the autumn, and then that is what they will light on fire. So I hope to get a good picture for everyone of that on fire, saying goodbye to COVID.
So you're gonna go. You're gonna take your car.
So here's the thing. On Friday, just coming up, they are going to kind of release a lottery, if you will. So you have to go to their website and you have to do it. Apparently, this is going to be a huge deal. So I worry about the website even crashing.
So Friday, February 26th?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that seems about right.
Seems about right.
The days are passing. But yeah, you have to get on there by 9:00 and you're going to have to register your car. But there's yet another little caveat. You have to prove that you spent $50 in something Jeju is doing called Tamna dollars.
Right.
Do you know anything about that? Yeah,
it's like a Jeju. You can pretty much spend it anywhere on the island.
I'm finding more and more that it really isn't anywhere, but it'll be in your local marts, and some restaurants can choose to do it.
Oh, okay.
And it's just a special way. It does save you money in the long run.
Does it?
Yeah. You can buy a certain amount and they'll give you certain reduction and things like that. But so that's the thing, is you have to go prove, and I don't know if that's going to be through a receipt or a picture that shows that you bought 50
how do you do that?
It's going to be very interesting. And of course, it's all in Korean.
Will they judge what you buy?
No, it's not. You have to go to the bank and actually purchase the 50
like
and
I bought
use
$50
it.
worth of
Exactly. No. You have to show that you bought. You
the
exchanged.
Tamna dollars.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
there you
gotcha.
go.
I gotcha.
You exchanged your money for the 50 to use because they want, obviously, to support local businesses. And
which is a nice call.
Yeah, it is.
Especially during COVID.
Right, and it's a unique way to to help locals and then keep it residents to enjoy some time down here as well. Because really, will kind of exclude other people, I would imagine, from coming down.
Yeah, I would actually.
Right? Don't you think? Yeah. Well, to be found. More will be discussed later as I go through the process.
How many people would you say?
Only 400 cars, and then 4 people to each car. And the rest is a mystery. They haven't released a lot of information. We don't know if there's going to be food. I would guess not.
Right.
But we don't.
No rides.
Right. No ride. Yeah. We don't. It's really a mystery about what it all will look like. But I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get my ticket. So we'll see.
So I felt we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Jeju trending all over the world this last week. Did you see any of this?
I did catch a little bit about that. There's been a couple people posting on Facebook about it.
Oh, really? People
on
Facebook?
Yeah.
So for the people who aren't familiar, a hotel in my backwoods here in Jungmun had, as the Korea Times headline said, found itself in hot waters after someone complained online that their honeymoon was ruined because the sauna windows were see-through when they advertised that you couldn't see through them.
That they were tinted to keep your privacy.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to talk about this. I felt it was like, but it just it kind of upsetted me to see it everywhere.
To see Jeju trending because of this one hotel, sort of this information.
CNN, Fox News, Mercury News, Telegraph in Britain,
grief.
9 News in Australia. It was everywhere.
That's interesting. I didn't know it was that far reach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even my paper covered it. I didn't, but we all did. And what did you think when you saw it? Like, what was your opinion when you saw it in international newspapers?
Well, that's a tough call. In my immediate thought was, things get built so quickly in Korea
Uh-huh.
that it was an oversight. I certainly don't believe it was purposeful,
Uh-huh.
but I do. Number one, if anyone who's lived in Korea knows that things are just up and down, they just get built overnight. So it's, it happens quickly. But on the other hand, how staff didn't notice this whole time, or did they notice it and just didn't deal with it? Because it was from the lobby. The couple that complained said that they had a honeymoon until one day they were walking around exploring the hotel and they looked up and there it was. And they were like, oh my gosh.
It's weird.
It's weird.
So weird.
And it is
and
weird.
It's weird to see
Jeju
in the news
for something
this.
so random.
Yeah, and why this?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of a news junkie, and the purpose of news is to literally arm the public to be able to be self-governing. So when I see a news article, I always wonder, how is this servicing the reader? Right? So what is this supposed to do?
What's the benefit of it?
Right, because the best idea, example of news is the weather. You read the weather. It doesn't tell you what to do about it, but it tells you it's going to rain, so you can decide whether or not to take an umbrella or not. You got 70% chance of rain. If you get rain on, it's your fault for not taking an umbrella. Tell you to take an umbrella would be editorializing. So why does...
You sound like such a nerd right now. I love it. So keep going, though.
Why does CNN... Why does anybody need to report about Jeju's hotel in Jungmun on a place that no one really has ever heard of?
Right.
At a hotel no one's ever heard of. It's been open like a month.
Right. To be honest with you, Darryl, I never thought about it that way. It's a really good spin. Like, what was the purpose of doing that? Right. Yeah.
And how many of those news organizations actually called the person who complained to check to make sure the complaint was real?
The factoids, the facts behind it, yeah. Oh, well, again, that's not something I would have thought about, but as a news reporter, you have to think that way. So really interesting spin.
But yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that people know that we're aware of that.
Well, and if any listeners, like, how far away are you? And did you see that come up on your news feed anywhere? Let us know. Hit us up by through Instagram or Facebook, and let us know if that's something that came across your desktop.
So now, one of the topics that I've been writing about, that I've returned to over and over again, and that I'm trying to write a book about, is the Jeju Massacre. And coming up is actually a really important day in the history of the Jeju Massacre. So I thought it'd be kind of good to talk about the March 1st shooting incident, because maybe people are not aware of it as well, or I thought it'd be good just to mark it and to kind of like signify that this is coming up on Jeju. Not just Sasam, but also not just March 1st, but also Sasam April 3rd. So the next little while is kind of like a memorial on Jeju, because all of Jeju is kind of a cemetery.
Exactly, and it is a memorial. Sometimes my English doesn't come out so well anymore, but it is a holiday, memorial. It's a national holiday here. Well, March 1st is also what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, but March 1st is a holiday because it is March Independence Day from 1919.
So it's two separate things? There we go. See, okay, good to know.
That's why on Jeju it's got like a different weight to it than in the rest of Korea.
Oh, see, and I guess even I knew what it meant, but I just somehow thought maybe it was just connected. So that's a good thing to know.
So how familiar are you with the shooting incident on March 1st?
Well, so I have tried to learn more and more about the history of Jeju as I've lived here. I've done the dark tour, but to be honest, as you just said, there's so much facts about it. This whole island is basically a cemetery. Yeah. So I do know a little bit, but I don't know everything.
Did you know that, like, when you land on Jeju, the tarmac, there's bodies underneath there?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so when people come to Jeju, that was a mass gravesite at the airport.
Of the massacre.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're all over the place. Like,
sure.
But that was quite a predominant one. Like when I walk with my father-in-law, one of the first things is like, yeah, over there, that's where the Jongbong waterfalls.
Right.
That was among huge...
So again, there's just so much history on this small island we live in,
and it all kind of like the first, even though it's called Sasam April 3rd, it starts with
this incident,
March 1st, 1947.
Okay.
And it's actually like even crucially important to Korea, depending on some of the scholars. Some scholars actually equate the Sasam to be the start of the Korean War. Some people do interpret it that way.
Okay.
So if you do that, then March 1st would, be the start of that
Right,
too.
right, okay.
Right? So Wondok John Pavilion. Are you familiar with Wondok John Pavilion? In
I am.
Jeju-shi.
I am up north.
Jeju.
Right.
Close
It's
to
not too far from my house.
Yeah. It's it was one of the most important political spaces in Jeju following independence from Japan in 1945, because across the street from it, that's where the police agency was, and that's where the U.S. military government in Korea was located on Jeju.
Really? That's interesting. And it's not there anymore, obviously. That's a bunch of shops and restaurants now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but that became a protest location as the relationship following 1945, as the relationship between the military and the Jeju locals deteriorated, and the first anti-America protest happened there on February 10th, 1947. It was organized by a bunch of students, depending on what source you look at. It could be 300 or 1,000 students against Western confection, pastries and things like this, which was actually a Korea-wide protest. It was a boycott of that, but that was the location of the first one on Jeju.
And so they didn't, at this point, there was not much against the Japanese occupation. It was about
American occupation.
Okay.
Right. This is 1947.
Okay.
This is 2 years after that occupation
Okay,
happened.
okay.
Now, the relationship between the Americans, the American military, and the Jeju Islanders was souring because of rampant corruption.
Sure.
And also, they failed to get rid of the Japanese collaborators that were in the police force.
Right.
So that was also deterring.
This is starting to sound more familiar to me.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
And after the end of the Japanese occupation, there was 101 police on Jeju. By the time March 1st came around, there was 430, mostly from the mainland, which we'll get
is
back
a whole
to.
nother whole nother thing.
Yeah. And in February, 100 police reservists came from the mainland, specifically in preparation of March 1st, Independence Day, to prevent any sort of riots or protests or anything like that.
Right. They expected it was going to happen. Okay.
They expected
in
to
anticipation.
the point
Okay.
that they banned parades and they banned that sort of stuff. You could have small gatherings in your own village, but they didn't want a huge, huge event, which happened.
Which
right?
did actually happen, right?
Yeah, at Jeju Book Elementary School, which is still there.
Oh, okay.
It's right behind. It's right behind the pavilion.
Okay.
Up to 30,000 people came to the school for speeches, right? And then after the speeches were done, the speeches were mainly done by people of the South Korean Labor Party, which was the leftist. It's super complicated. I'm actually not as interested in the politics
behind it, right?
I'm always more interested in
what happened.
People. Well, no, the people, and how it happened, how these huge historical events happen because of one small action, right? In Taiwan, I believe it was Taiwan, the Taiwan Revolution that happened there, revolt that happened there a year earlier, happened because a woman was trying to sell counterfeit cigarettes, and it blew up into this huge thing that
had repercussions for
huge. And
still.
That's what happened here, because when they left Jeju Book Elementary School around 2 p.m., they were walking through the pavilion, and it was over. The whole event was over. These
the
30,000 people were leaving, and
home.
Split up in two directions. One person, whoever was west, whose houses were west, going that way, whoever's east. But as they were leaving the pavilion, a horse kicked a 6-year-old child.
Right.
Are you familiar with that?
I am. The more you speak, the more I'm connecting the dots. Yes, I am familiar with that.
Do you remember what happened to the child?
Died, right?
No, a lot of people think that, but no. This is the interview. I believe the person's still alive.
No way.
Yeah, and
the 6-year-old child is still perhaps living. You believe so?
I haven't.
Fascinating.
Okay. It would be a really great.
There are some paintings. Oh, that's hard. Yeah, there are some paintings that depict this incident, and in books, that's something that's fairly. There's a vivid image in my head of them rushing to cradle his body.
Oh, really?
And then I don't know why, but I just know that I've seen it somewhere that I have this image in my head.
I don't even know if he's injured. If
right,
he was injured, I don't know the severity. But the problem is.
He still was kicked by a horse, by a, still.
Yeah, no,
still.
It's not a laughing matter. I didn't mean to laugh at that. But so the child was kicked, and the relationship had deteriorated to such a point that the people in anger started throwing rocks. The police officer apparently didn't know and just sort of was leaving the place towards the police station, which I said was there, and people started throwing rocks and getting angry at them, like, how dare you, and all this boiled.
Because tensions were so high.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is where it matters that the police were not from Jeju, that they were from the mainland.
The connection, okay.
Well, they came from a place on the mainland that had experienced the October Uprising a year earlier.
Right.
And the October Uprising was when leftists killed 36 or more than two dozen police officers in quite a gruesome manner. And these people experienced it.
Okay.
And so when they saw
vivid memories still in their head.
When they saw the people charging, they actually thought they were, this is what claimed to be, they were under attack.
Of course.
And they opened fire, and they killed 6 people, including a 15-year-old child, a student, and injured 6 more. But the other thing that happened, which doesn't get talked about much, sometimes hear that 6 people were killed, 6 were injured. It's 8 that was injured.
Okay.
Because as those bodies of the people who were injured were taken to the hospital, at the hospital, there was a police officer who was recovering from a traffic incident the day before.
Okay. Not related to the incident.
Not related to the incident. Right. He was injured the day before. But he had 2 other police officers with them. They were all a part of the group that came from the mainland that experienced the October Uprising. So when they saw the bodies that came in and they heard the gunshots reverberate from the Gyeongdokjeong Pavilion, which wasn't far away, they thought they were under attack, and they opened fire on people too.
Wow, so much of what do they call it in the movies? The butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
Just one thing after the other after the other. They just happen to be in the hospital, and then of course that's their reaction to something. So wow.
And they injured 2 people at the hospital.
So 2 more people
2 more
there.
People. So 6.
So 2 more people that were just helping carry the injured, or we don't even know.
I don't even know who because they didn't
But no
die.
matter what, 2 more people. Okay.
So 8 people, right? So, and because of this incident, police attempted to, they didn't apologize, but they tried to justify it. And they tried to say they were attacked, and they tried to paint the island as, because it was organized by the South Korean Labor Party, as like a leftist communist, rebellion, not rebellion, but protest. Because what happened afterwards is that it led to the general strike of March 10th.
Okay.
Because once you had the shooting incident, what happened afterwards was the people, they organized. And they said, okay, we have 5 demands. And if you do not meet these demands, we're going on strike. And one of the demands was you have to execute the people who shot the police officers responsible for the shooting, plus their commanding officer.
Okay.
Among 4 other demands.
4 other demands. But was that the most serious of them?
That's the one that sticks with me.
Yeah. That's a big thing.
Right. But this is what happens. This is what happened recently in Hong Kong. They had 5 demands as well, but not asking for executions, but they were asking for apologies, they were asking for reviews, they were asking for things like this.
You want some sort of action to be taken,
Exactly. And Colonel James A. Castile was an American who's a very interesting person, and I've done a bunch of research into him. And he was tasked by the military to investigate what happened. And so
an American man is investigating.
American military man was investigating.
Okay.
But most of his findings would go ignored.
Oh.
And he would only achieve the government to take responsibility for the 2 people injured at the hospital.
Okay.
Right? And so instead of the demands of the South Korean Labor Party and the Jeju people being met, they went on strike on March 10th. But I'm actually getting a little bit ahead of myself because after that, the next day they rounded up leaders of the protest, of the March 1st protest.
So who the people that had been giving speeches and organizing.
Well, and also students that were rumored to have been tortured and beaten by the police during their captivity, right? So this is the beginning of things spiraling
into
out
the
of
4-3
spiraling out of control that leads to 4-3, where the people where you get the South Korean Labor Party revolting and burning down police stations out of anger and frustration.
So let's just clarify what you said as something that's really interesting to me. So they're rounding up the leaders. Are you saying to me that they, at that first time, they were also rounding up students?
They rounded up like 2 dozen
at that
students.
time.
Yeah.
And
the next
why?
day.
Because the students had been at the protest?
Yes, presumably.
Okay.
And
So again, butterfly effect.
Yeah,
it's like the ripples of this one day and this day number 2.
A kid getting kicked leads to the deaths of 30,000 Jeju residents over the course of the next few years.
Which is, in fact, for our listeners not familiar, which is what we will be talking about later, the 4-3
massacre. Well, that's interesting because it doesn't have an official name.
Right. Oh.
I call it massacre, but people disagree with my terminology.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, which hopefully we'll have some people on who can explain why they disagree with my terminology.
What it's just to a little preview, what are some other names they've given it?
Well, Jeju Massacre.
Okay.
Jeju Uprising.
Uprising, that's the one I'm really familiar with.
Jeju Rebellion.
Okay.
And what we know it as is the Jeju Incident.
Right. You're right. I've heard about it. Okay. So, so for our listeners, for sure, as March comes closer, we will be discussing that in more depth.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like I said, it's. I don't know. It really hit me. It was something that came to when I came to the island. It just it stayed with me, and I've interviewed
countless, right? Countless.
Many. I can't count. Survivor. I mean, it's my daughter's history.
Right.
It's not my history.
She's a Jeju girl, a Jeju local, right?
And I'm fascinated. Fascinated sounds like a minimizing word, but it's the history of the massacre is a personal history to the people here.
Right. It's a sorrowful enthrallment, it's so much has happened here. It is really hard to explain to anyone that's not familiar with the history or hasn't lived on the island. Just this there is so much details. You couldn't even begin, even scholars, there's so much to wrap your head around here. So you mentioned before, this is actually a national holiday, right? That has nothing to do with what happened at this incident, this shooting incident.
Yeah, it's a celebration of the March 1st Independence Movement Day.
Okay.
Right? It's in celebration of the movement of against Japanese occupation.
Okay. So two really quite separate incidents. So here on Jeju, do the Jeju locals obviously I see the Korean flag is, I live in an old neighborhood and it's a beautiful old neighborhood. And the day before, all of the people come out and hang their clouds and it's really quite stunning. It's something to see. But do the locals, do we have some sort of ceremonies or some sort of memorial? Why can I not say that word, Darryl?
Memorial?
Yeah. What is with me that I can't get that? It's like marbles in my mouth. But is there something that happens here to note that this incident happened?
Before you get that, I need to explain what they were protesting. I didn't even say.
Oh, okay.
Right, because I was talking about the American, the deteriorating relationship, but really what they were protesting and simultaneously celebrating, while they were simultaneously celebrating independence, they were protesting the upcoming division of the peninsula.
Oh my gosh!
Right, so that's what they were doing. They're simultaneously protesting the division of the peninsula because the relationship between the Americans, the negotiations between the Americans and Soviets were deteriorating at that point as well.
So much history.
So now that I got that clear, what you were saying.
Yeah, no, that's really, again, for someone, this is partly, you're a reporter, so I think your brain works this way. But as someone who is just interested in the land that I live in, it is so overwhelming. So it's to have you clarify that point, sort of surprises me a little bit to just remember, like, okay, that was actually the year that those things were happening, because there's just so much. There's so much history in this
modern.
land.
Like it's hard to think of it as history because people still exist from people are still alive,
alive, absolutely.
And those places are still
and we're still, and especially the Jeju locals have, again, we'll go into this later, but the Jeju locals that were affected by this are only now getting monetary, what is the word I'm looking for, Darryl? Reparations. And, so it's not that it's just, still modern times. It's still, things are occurring.
Well, people couldn't talk about it until 2000.
People can talk about it. So it's the history is like alive around us.
Right.
You know?
So, and on that day, like you were talking about, they have the flags that come up.
Okay.
And it's just a day mainly to celebrate the independence. I think that's mostly what it's done here, though it is the start. It is marking the fact that Sasan is coming up, which is a huge event. Usually, we'll have to see what happens this year
because
with
COVID.
COVID. At the museum, at the park.
The 4-3,
10,000 people attend the ceremony usually.
President has come down before for that.
A couple times.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So what you're saying then is really nothing has been set aside for specifically to remember this shooting incident on Jeju. Do you think?
I don't know. I have to look into that about the pavilion to see if something happens
to see
there.
if some sort of in the past has happened.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's on one hand it's this national holiday. On the other hand, it's a really sad day for Jeju locals.
Yeah. And as we conclude today's podcast, I'd like to comment about some of the comments that we received on the last episode. And in particular, we had Sean Kim message us about the segment we did about Hawaii of Korea.
Hi, Sean.
Yeah, he was nice enough to say he's a Jeju native who now lives, I believe, in the States. And he mentioned on our YouTube channel that his grandparents operated a rest stop midway up on Mount Sambangsan on the southwest side of the island. And he remembers a tourist booklet printed with the term the Hawaii of Korea from 1976.
Right. So lots of interest in the Hawaii of Korea around. And Sean was a wealth of knowledge. For those of you who want to check it out, he just said some interesting things on our YouTube in the comments below. And maybe one day we could get Sean on the podcast. Sure.
Yeah, he's actually a poet.
Is he? I didn't see that. Yeah, Sean, thank you so much for your comment. You sparked my imagination of what it would be like. And I guess his grandmother was the nun who was running the now on Sangbangsan is a Buddhist temple.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
So we had like a little exchange, and he just made my imagination run wild. So he commented that his family was taking care of all that, and his grandmother is the one who was the nun in charge of that temple for a while, and then so on and so on and so on. Yeah,
because it'd be cool to get more of these references from back then about when Korea was Jeju was referred to as the Hawaii of Korea, because we know that it was the first reference was 1966, but who knows if there was locals batting about, as we said before,
before it became really cool in the government's lexicon. Yeah, I was gonna say blog, but clearly that wasn't happening back then.
And we also got a comment about our Shinhwa World segment, where we were discussing Shinhwa World in connection to being originally planned as a myth and history town. And one of the listeners was kind enough to write in and remind us, or at least remind me, because I actually knew this, but a plum left my mind.
Forgot it.
That Shinhwa means myth. So at least there's a connection or mythology connection between the original idea of the town and the theme park it is now. Have you been there?
I have. I was just there not too long ago for a friend's birthday, actually. Yeah.
Have you been in the theme park?
Oh, no, I have not. There's so many things on Jeju that there's so many tourists, what I will just kindly say traps. And that is not one of the tourist places I've been. But that's interesting that they tied it all in by putting the name. And so Shinhwa means myth.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, it's good to know that.
Thank you for that person who sent that in. Was that via email?
No, it was by Facebook.
Oh, wow. I missed that completely.
Yeah. So, but if you guys want to message us, feel free to do so through Facebook, Instagram. We have an email at meyouandjeju at gmail.com. Or, smoke signal if you're on the island. I'll probably see it.
Yeah, hit us up. Most of you know us that are listeners right now. But also, please, for right now, if you could, try to subscribe to our channel.
Subscribe and also review if you feel so kind. If you're kind enough to give us a good review, please do that because that helps a lot.
These numbers at the beginning are kind of important. So thanks for supporting us. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, and until next time, I'm Darryl.
I'm Alexis.
And be me, you, and Jeju. Oh, before we go.
Rewind! Sorry, guys.
I would like to, we have to, credits here. So we'd like to thank Jason Lisco for doing the music, the wonderful music that you're about to hear and you heard at the beginning before. And Sarah Hodgkiss does our art. I will be doing the editing, or have done the editing if you've already listened to this. And my lovely co-host, Alex, she brings the content. And until next time, be me and you and Jeju.
Ciao.